Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. Proudly in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it's okay to talk. Tonight we are 75% British, 25% Irish, but as always, we are still 100% Giants. And again, this evening, I'm joined by Shane, by Kev, and by Craig for another therapy session. Therapy session number 7 is in session. That work? I don't know. The Giants fell to yet another home loss, this time against division rivals, the Washington Commanders, where rookie Jaden Daniels showed us again how important it is to have a quarterback under centre. Now leaves us 2-7, heading to Munich off the back of another soul-destroying loss at home. But surprisingly, this one wasn't on the offense. What? Lots to discuss again this evening, lads. No doubt lots to vent about as well, especially me and you, Shane. How are we doing?
Yeah, not bad. Obviously, not the result we wanted, but maybe the result we expected. But it was great to have that meet up on Sunday. As always, it's great watching Giants games with you guys, and then it's even better when we meet up with the followers and the listeners and get to spend some time with them and just chat Giants ball in general. So. There was some bright sparks from Sunday outside of the football.
Yeah, some bright sparks. We're here for another therapy session. We'll go over parts of the game, introduce some new stuff, have a bit of a chat. It was a great Sunday night, even though I was knackered myself getting back to my recce of Munich. But really good seeing you boys as always, and I am buzzing for this weekend coming up.
Yeah, I think that's the main takeaway, isn't it? Is the fact that we might be a bit more jovial and a bit more kind of excited than normal for a loss because Munich is slowly closing in and the Giants are starting to put out content. And Dan, do you want to do the honours and tell people that there's a certain YouTube channel they might want to keep an eye out on this week?
You might want to keep an eye out on the official Giants YouTube channel. We had the absolute joy and pleasure of speaking to John Schmelk this evening and the Giants huddle. So that's going to be going out sometime this week, in a couple of days maybe. But yeah, it was a good chat, wasn't it, boys?
It was indeed. Really nice bloke. Kind of let us take over his pod in a way, just to
let me
chat
host a little bit. Yeah,
it was pretty much just what it's like on here to a degree, but with John Schmelk hosting instead of Dan.
It was surreal, but it was a great chat, and yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's a shame, obviously, you missed it, Kev, but don't worry, your name was mentioned a few times on there, so we did you good, we did you proud, mate. But yeah, it was a great weekend. Obviously, I say great weekend. It was great catching up with you boys at the weekend. So obviously, watching the game with company always helps, as bad as the result was. And it wasn't the result we wanted. It wasn't the result we were hoping for at the beginning of Sunday evening. But nonetheless, it was a great evening. And to all those that came along, we really appreciate you coming and taking the time out of your evening and out of your weekend to come and spend with us and watch the Giants game. And obviously, Keith and Andy from the UK Giants fans came along as well. So great to have them involved. And obviously, they'll be out in Munich as well this weekend. So all around a good evening, plenty of beers flowing. And just a shame about the result at the end of the day. Some man strolls into the chat. But yeah, lots to talk about this evening. A disappointing game overall, but we'll get into it shortly. If you are watching live on YouTube, X, Twitch, Facebook, as you already are, there's plenty of you getting involved in the comments. Get involved, send us your questions, give us your opinions about the game as well. Let us know what you thought. Did Daniel Jones play better this week? Did the defense suffer this week? What's your thoughts? What's your opinions? Let us know. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. And also feel free to leave us a review on your platform of choice.
Just
We appreciate that. Go on.
Just quickly, did someone's college team lose a perfect season at the weekend? I mean, I know he pulled, but I don't think that makes it any better.
And all viewers and listeners, this is the New York Giants podcast. We're going to be staying on topic today.
Oh, the table turn.
So, what was the final score, Shane?
Just at the bottom there, Washington 27, New York 22.
No. The Penn State score. What's the final Penn State score? Enlighten our viewers and listeners, because they might. I don't know. They might not know.
Contact me.
Contact you, Craig. Kev, can either of you enlighten me on the final score of the Penn State game?
It was a low-scoring game, wasn't it? It was like, what, 16-13 or something?
It was a fucking shit game.
The Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University. Okay, I've heard of Ohio State University. They're a big team.
And the worst thing is, I hate them so much. But
I just love that Shane's going full Mourinho there. Just like, if I speak, I am in trouble.
But, I mean, you had to get the elephant out of the room, right? I had to address the elephant in the room. Shane called it.
I'll take the pelters.
I'm just avoiding a Penn State rant, so I'm staying quiet.
I mean, the platform's yours, Shane. Feel free to vent if you want.
Nah. However, spoiler, this is not going to be the last that we talk about college football on this episode today.
Ooh, stay tuned for that, viewers and listeners. It won't be the last time we talk college football in this episode this evening.
Is that because we're going to talk? Is that because we're going to talk about mine and Kev's little bet for this weekend? You forgot about that, didn't you, Kev?
We will be bringing that up at the weekend as well.
It had slipped my mind.
It slipped your mind, had it, Kev?
Convenient
that.
Are you confident, Kev?
Well, it was the point spread's 26 points. The point spread is 26 points, so I think everyone's confident.
So for the listeners who don't know, because I'm stupid, today we're playing FSU this weekend, and we've got a wager saying that the loser has to wear the other's team hat during the game or just on Sunday, because we're going to be in opposite parts of the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I think post game or whenever we meet up, there has to be photos, evidence, maybe for a few hours in the evening after the game.
Maybe Sunday pre-game as well.
I just want to hear about people walking past Craig going, "Go Irish!" And Craig's like, "I'm not a Notre Dame fan."
So are we predicting it's going to be Are we predicting it's going to be an Irish win already? Are we?
No, not with DJ Youngalele at centre.
I'm just gutted that CJ lost my Notre Dame straw cowboy hat, because that would have come over.
Oh, that would have been class. Damn you, CJ. Why'd you lose it?
He's a drunken mess.
That... Shots fired.
He has a thing for losing things, but we're not going to get into that, are we, Kev?
No, not today.
Anyway, moving on. Listen, back on Giants. Yeah, obviously the evening on Sunday was great. It didn't have the same celebratory feel as it did last year, obviously with the win we had against Washington last year. But we still had a great night, venting about how the season's gone so far, and how the season's going to be sort of over the second half of the year after the bye week. But yeah, for those that came along, we really appreciate the love. Let's talk about the game then. It's I think a tough competitive game, and in the end, just didn't make enough plays to get the outcome we wanted. This is how, yet again, a dejected coach stable described the loss on the rostrum after the game. what was another, I mean, it wasn't a horrible home showing, but it was a disappointing home showing. And for the fourth straight defeat for the Giants, as they were beaten 27-22 by the Commanders, who in the process swept the team for the first time since 2021, and only the second time in the last sort of 13 or 14 years since we won our last Super Bowl. And with the defeat, the Giants are now 0-5 at home for the first time in 50 years, since 1974, and are the only team other than the Cowboys who haven't won a game at home this season, but the Cowboys have only played 3 at Jerry World. So, yeah, not pretty reading on the back of that. The play calling in the game was probably at its lowest on both sides of the ball. Dable calling some strange plays, which, along with 2 very questionable apparently analytic-driven 2-point attempts in which both failed. We're shit inside the red zone. How is it based off analytics? It must be based off analytics. The fact we're shit inside the red zone means we're not going to get it in the end zone. But yeah, just frustrating. And Shane Bowen just not really able to get any pressure on the quarterback or really sort of challenge this Washington offense either. And it just allowed them to pick the secondary apart and just control the game, really. One surprising thing about the game is we actually saw a bit of offense, some semblance of offense in the second half as well, as we pulled within a score. But it was too little, too late, unfortunately. It was joint closest home game of the season in terms of the scoreline. Obviously, only losing by 5 points, same as the Cowboys' result back in week 4. But overall, just frustrating and disappointing is the overall feeling. But like I said, not quite an offensive post-mortem this week, Craig. It wasn't great, but it's not exactly a post-mortem. We're going to talk about the offense.
No, I think it was probably one of the better showings, especially at home. It's not really a great indictment of how good the offense has been for the season when we say that that's probably our best output at home. But yeah, I want to talk about a certain schizophrenic player called Dr. Jones and Mr. Hyde, who was clinical and in the same sentence across 2 different halves. It could have been called a tale of 2 halves, really, this bit, because it was just that for Daniel Jones, and also the reasons with a record-setting first half and a second half that was, I think, assured is probably the right word to use. I went with Dr. Jones because it was clinical. I think that's probably a good way to put it. And as Steve has said, Dr. Jones will be buzzing for their
Get
little
out,
bit
Steve.
of
Get out.
royalties. I will not be singing Dr. Jones like Shane sings the Thomas the Tank Engine theme, because we'll get more than a copyright strike if I do that. Right, let's start with that first half.
We'll get struck off YouTube as a whole.
Yeah.
Although I did manage to find a karaoke Irish bar on Saturday nights in Munich if we wanted to do a rendition there.
Ooh.
I'm not there the weekend, but I would definitely like to see that, and I'm sure several listeners would. So I think the Kev's put the wheels in motion. Let's go.
Right, the first half. It started with the Giants trying to get the running offense going, with Dave's calling 7 runs on the first offensive plays. But with that 9th, Hubbard was swept aside by Dante Fowler, who hit our quarterback, Mr. Jones, on the blind side, causing a fumble that led to the Commanders' first touchdown on a short field. And that's almost a game killer from the start. I think we were all head in hands kind of moment with that. Obviously, they ran the fumble all the way back, and it was called back to the spot, which we were lucky, but at the end of the day, it ended up in a touchdown anyway. Next drive took 10 minutes of time off the clock, 16 plays by the Giants, and Jones passed 3 times. We had 13 runs in that between Tracy, Singletary, and design runs for Daniel Jones. And that ended with that Manhurts touchdown, which is a great catch by Manhurts. Other than that, we have one more drive of 2 incompletions. So the final stats for that first half were 4 of 6 for 0 yards and a touchdown. And as Mike Garofalo tweeted via NFL Research, Daniel Jones is the first quarterback since 1991, which is when they started following or, compiling stats like this, to have 0 or fewer pass yards, 1 passing touchdown in the first half of a game with 5 passing attempts. So, yeah, enough said. The second half, however, saw a much more assured Daniel, 16 for 20, 174 yards, and a passing touchdown. It should have been 2 passing touchdowns, but apparently the refs are now calling offensive pass interference for a wide receiver running his route. Apparently that's what we do. We saw it back multiple times. I don't think any of us have been able to pick the bones of that. Now, interestingly, Jones finished the game with a season high grade of 91.5 overall and 80.6 passing, despite having his lowest passing attempts, completions, second lowest passing game this season. But he did have his best completion percentage with 76.9. I think overall grades of maybe 80 would have been okay. He had like an 80 fumble rating despite fumbling the ball. So I'm not quite sure where that comes into it. But just
surely it should be 0.
Obviously, huh?
Sure, so surely it should be 0. He fumbled the ball. Why is it an 80 fumble rate? And that makes no sense.
I mean, he got sacked he got sacked other times, didn't fumble the ball. That's why it's not. Yeah. Just to close out the talk on Daniel Jones, though, as Mayo said at the beginning of the show, he did win the scepter for Angry Run of the Week, and 7 runs, 54 yards, and the touchdown. He tracked 2 Washington defenders, threw both of them to the ground, really. It was impressive by DJ, and it sort of showed that grit that maybe we've been missing, despite the jovial comments from all 4 of us that maybe he thinks that it's less obvious to get his injury guarantee if he breaks his arm rather than doing anything to his legs. Shane, after 9 games, Daniel Jones has 1,880 yards and is on pace for his second highest yardage output of his career. Is it just me, or does that number seem a little hard to quantify since the passing output has been so poor?
Kev, why are you shaking your head?
It's just crazy, isn't it? Like, I mean, I'll let you answer the question, but it's just mental.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to quantify, but I don't really give a toss if he's going to pass for the second highest that he's ever done in his career or the most. He's still not a winning quarterback. He's still not a starting quarterback in this league. He's, for whatever reason at the moment, hopefully he's not going to be for much longer, to be honest. And it's just the Daniel Jones we've come to kind of expect now. You're gonna have good games, you're gonna have bad games, but you're not going to get games where you can turn around and say this is the guy for the future.
And then Dan, he also has 23 drops from his receivers on this season. His season high is 30, so he's only 7 drops away from his season high, considering we're halfway through the season. Should we be maybe reflecting some of this criticism on the receivers as well?
Yeah. We have to expect more from these receivers, especially a talent like Malik Neighbours, and Slayton as well, and Wandale. They're veteran enough to know you need to catch the ball and hold on to it. I mean, it's basic football, but it almost kind of begs a question about coaching. Surely Mike Grove's not. Surely he's coaching in the right way, or is he coaching the right way? Because he's got some big questions to ask of his unit if we're just seeing drops week in, week out from all of his receivers, and especially with two of your best dropping the ball, it's just not good enough. We've given DJ all the criticism so far about not being able to make the plays. But yeah, I think maybe these drops have been overlooked a little bit. Like I said, 23 through 9 weeks, and yet it's career highs 30 total in a season. I mean, it's 23 after 9 weeks, whichever way you look at it, whichever way you cut it, is not good enough. How would you expect to win games in this league when your playmakers can't make plays week after week?
I just want to, obviously, Tim said lots of drops due to ball placement. For some, yes, but not for all. I think there are quite a few drops that we've had this season. I mean, Kev, I don't want to step on your Kool-Aid, so I'm going to let you cover it for one of the players who was guilty for a couple of those drops himself. But some of those drops are on the money and catches you'd expect people to make. So I think we do have to kind of caveat that, yes, Jones isn't playing well at the moment, but on the flip side, he does need his to corral that in, especially if it's on the money, and we've seen a fair few of those this season. Kev, it is time for your 3 standout players / moments of the game. What have you gone for?
Yeah, I'll just quickly touch on what you were saying there as well, Craig. That's an absolute fantastic point. Like, the red receivers, you have to help him out. You have to bring in some of these catches and be NFL players where, you're not open, but you're open. So get the ball in hands. And if you get your hands to it, you have to bring it in. But 3 sort of like moments and players that I picked this week were like Tyrone Tracy. I mean, the rookie continues to impress. He had 16 carries for 66 yards. The Giants as a whole ran 21 times for 142 yards at 6.8 yards per attempt. And Daniel Jones had 7 carries, 54 yards. Devin Singletary, 7 carries for 33 yards. And even Darius Slayton contributed to that cheeky little misdirection 11-yard run, which I thought was fantastic. And maybe Malik Neighbors a bit gutted he didn't get his hands on that ball. He might have felt he could take that all the way. And another player I wanted to highlight was Theo Johnson. The rookie tight end. He had a 35-yard touchdown catch, the first of his career, and finished with 3 catches for 51 yards. I mean, that's not too bad, right? The problem is, looked like the 3 targets Jones did not come up with, there were balls that could have been caught, like you just mentioned. All were contested and in traffic, and none were easy. But if you're going to be a big-time player in this league and you want to make a name for yourself, and to try and win close games, these are the catches you're going to have to go out and make. I mean, how many times have we seen tight ends pick difficult catches away from us, so we think perfect coverage, and tight ends just seem to crucify us on Sundays. But just lead into another tight end. After losing his touchdown catch on Monday night against Pittsburgh due to that illegal shift by Malik Neighbors, Manhurst caught a 2-yard touchdown pass from Daniel Jones on Sunday. And that wasn't an easy grab either. Like, Manhurst having to leap over a defender for it. The touchdown was just his 3rd of Manhurst's career, a blocking tight end. In the 9 years he's been in the league, that's the 3rd touchdown grab. It was such a good grab, and that was high, and that was put somewhere where the defender couldn't get it, that only the offensive player could get it, and he went up and he pulled it down. So, that's the type of sort of grabs you want to see making, and he's not renowned for making those type of plays. A lot of people see him as a sick offensive lineman most of the time. But Shane, I want to ask you, in Tracy, do you think we have a running back who can be a true number 1 RB in this league?
Can he be a number 1 running back in the league? Yes. But I don't think he's ever going to be considered one of the best backs in the league. And I'm fine with that, in all honesty. If he's a kind of top 12, top 14 running back, I'll take that. But, I think he's one of them. I think he'll constantly be in that kind of, say, 12 to 16 range. And then, maybe one year he might break into the top 8 or even the top 6, maybe just once. But I don't think he's going to be kind of one of those running backs who is going to constantly be in the top 5, top 6 running backs year in, year out.
Yeah, I think Dable would like to have him as just a consistent back that picks up the hard yards like he has done. But I really think he wants a playmaker at the quarterback position and just have the running back as a complement to that. So I definitely agree with you there. But Dan, talking about this offense, it seems serviceable on Sunday. They weren't really the reason we lost this game. But do you think that we are suffering a bit from being one of those bad teams that just doesn't get the calls from the refs?
I mean, yes. As frustrating as the calls have been against us, you can't just. It's easy to put the blame on the referees when you're losing a game, and the calls don't go your way. If you win the game and the calls do go your way, then you're not mentioning them at all. Really, you kind of think that we'll pocket that one. That was lucky. But on that as well, I think there was a couple of calls at the weekend. I just thought I was absolutely baffled by the offensive pass interference on Slayton, like you mentioned, Craig. I mean, what's the guy got to do? Not run his route properly? Just does he just? I can't. I don't even know what went through the referee's mind or the judge's mind to throw the flag on that, because he was just doing what he needed to do. I don't get that. And the other one as well, the fumble recovery. The ball was sacked at the Washington 29-yard line. Daniel Jones was sacked at the Washington 37 and fumbled at the Washington 37. The play was called dead not long after that. It was whistled dead, and it was whistled dead. Like, it wasn't just a single whistle. They were saying stop, and you see Devin Singletary not chase after the ball because the play is being called dead so much. Washington challenge it, and then the ball gets spotted at the Giants' 31-yard line.
Do we know why that was?
I'm sorry. The Giants' 37-yard, the Giants' 31-yard line against the Washington 37-yard line. What the fuck? Because there's a 40-yard difference there. And it's almost a case of, are you watching the right game? Are you watching the same game? Or is your monitor tuned into a completely different game and you see a different fumble? Because that was just mind-blowing. And that set up, obviously, Washington's first touchdown drive. If it was at the 37-yard line where the ball was fumbled, it's a lot further from there than it is from the Giant 31-yard line. And I just absolutely baffled by that. And Washington challenged what they challenged, I don't know, but it just how much more often can we laud these referees for not making the right calls, and they're ruining games. Look at Kansas City last night. If you haven't watched it, overtime, there's a blatant false start on the right tackle on that offensive line. Blatant he moves a second before that snap. Yeah, it's not called. And you just wonder, like, what have you got to do to get consistent referee calls in this league? But at the same time, we shouldn't be in the position to be having to be, questioning these referee calls and them to be a big deal, because we should be winning games. But sometimes calls like this hold you back from winning games. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle, really.
It's interesting because Mayo said, the fumble call was correct based on the rules. The whistle is ignored on a fumble. If you read the breakdown on ESPN to it, it was a Jones sack for minus 10 yards, fumble. Fowler picked it up and was touched at the Washington 37. It wasn't actually physically recovered by anyone until Wagner on the 31. So I think that's why it went there, is because it.
But players play to the whistle. Players play to the whistle, and if Devin Singletary hadn't have heard that whistle, he would have recovered it.
I mean, I get it, but yeah.
But it's a bullshit call. In any sport, you're told play to the whistle. That's what you're taught on day one at school. Yep. Whether it's soccer, whether it's NFL, whether it's basketball, whatever it is, any sport where the official has a whistle, you're told play to the whistle. If you hear that whistle, you're going to look and be like, okay, what's happening then? Ref, is it a foul? Are you stopping it? What are we doing? Ref seems like you blow your whistle. But
it just goes back to that thing where, like, we just don't get the rub of the green. I mean, where was the fumble in the game that went out of bounds and we couldn't recover it, and then the opposition had the ball and carried on the offense? It's just we just don't get these calls. I mean, like I said before, bad teams find way to lose games. If you're up by 2 scores, does it matter? because they only get one score, but we're losing games by close margins. So I kind of feel like we're nearly a good team. The problem is we can't be nearly. We have to try and be. We have to be a good team, and this offseason is going to be huge to try and get us over the hump, because I think we're close enough, but we just need to get over the hump.
So the other one that I just wanted to bring up was the incredible refereeing for just before the Theo Johnson touchdown on the Slayton pass interference, the defensive pass interference on Saint Strill, with the longest ESPN breakdown I've ever seen in my life, where they called it just what was it? It was an interception that was fumbled and then recovered, and then defensive pass interference. And then the replay official reviewed the fumble ruling, and the play was reversed, so it was just defensive pass interference.
Mad, isn't it? Mad. But yeah, it's just rotten luck, I think, more than anything. And I mean, Mayonnaise made a good point in the comments, is why you often see players pick up the ball. All Devin Singletary had to do is pick up that ball, and it's a different story, I know, but yeah, you play to the whistle, in my opinion, and it's just mega frustrating. But you know what? Overall, the offense didn't. They weren't bad. They kept us in the game, because the defense struggled in this one. And I think, second half, I think Daniel Jones played fairly well. So overall, I think the offensive performance was much improved this week. Talking about that defense, like I said, we're used to them being the unit that steps up and delivers week in, week out. But the 28 minutes the defense were on the field, we witnessed missed tackles, we witnessed poor coverage, and we didn't witness a single resemblance of any pass rush that we've seen so far this season. Only the second time this year, we didn't have a single player with an overall PFF grade over above 80. And for the first time this season, the defense didn't sack the quarterback. We barely got any pressure on him either. We had 8 total pressures, 2 of them being quarterback hits by Aziz Aguiz. And it just says a lot when Armand Watts was only on the field for 8 defensive snaps. He's the highest graded pass rusher for the game. It just whatever the defense was throwing at him, either A, wasn't good enough, or B, that Washington offensive line was just soaking it up with ease, because it just whatever was happening, we just couldn't get anything going on defense this week. And secondary as well is a tough week. It's a week to forget for our defensive rookies. Tyler Nubin and Drew Phillips both had tough weeks, tough games. Allowed 7 receptions on 8 targets for 115 yards, 94 of those yards coming after the catch. And yet again, Deontay Banks struggled against an elite receiver, allowed Terry McLaurin to catch 2 touchdowns in the first half, the second of which he got caught. He was channeling him inside. He went, the defender's always going to have the defenders in that situation. You got safety help. The defender needs to be outside leverage. No, he turns inside, gets caught flat-footed, and McLaurin, before he knows it, McLaurin's gone past him, and he's turned him around, and he's already in the end zone. And it's frustrating, because we had that safety help across the middle, and he just bit on it, and he didn't need to. And it's almost like, are you not coached to not bite, and especially when you're in that cover 4 scheme like we were. So it was frustrating to see Banks give up that so easily. And what have our defensive backs got to do as well to get a pass breakup? Because we only had one this week, and that was Adoree Jackson. The only pass breakup on this unit this week was Adoree Jackson, and we just don't seem to be getting anywhere near the receivers on some of this coverage, let alone breaking up a pass, or even intercepting a pass, because we still only got one of them this season. But too often we saw the Commanders extending drives. They had 21 first downs. And when we did force either a 3rd or 4th down, it was for 1 or 2 yards or 3 yards here. Apart from that 3rd and 18, where we go and give up a 24-yard pass play. And then that's the game over and done with. Washington, they were efficient on 1st and 2nd down. Chunk plays coming through the air. They averaged 13.9 yards per catch, with 7 out of 15 completions going for over 10 yards. and giving Jaden Daniels the time to control the game. The ball was in his hands and the game was in his hands, and he controlled it expertly for a young quarterback in his rookie season. I think he controlled the game really, really well when they were on the offense. We forced them to punt twice on 8 drives, which isn't good enough. And the back-to-back touchdown drives in the first half pretty much won them the game by halftime. And although the offense did show signs of fight in the second half, we saw some impressive drives put together by that offense. That sort of clock sapping final drive where they just ran the ball 2, 3, 4 yards at a time, 2, 3, 4 yards at a time, and poor clock management really by Dable. I think it was before the 2-minute warning that they were just running the clock down running the play clock down every time, and I think it's like just under 3 minutes left, and you think, why are we not calling a timeout here? Yeah, 3 timeouts left. Why are we not calling one here? And they let the play clock run right down every time and snap the ball, run the ball. And before we know it's 2-minute warning, that 3rd and 18 conversion comes and it's game over. It's time to kneel down and victory formation. And that sort of just put the final nail in the coffin, that 3rd and 18 conversion. It was just really poor. In that situation, you can't allow that to happen. And I mean, I know it's a missed tackle to allow for him to get that 3rd and long conversion, but you got to make that tackle. You got to do your job and make that tackle. But allowing them to control the game so easily on offense, I mean, it was always going to be a tough task and tough ask to come out of this one with a win. But I think overall we just didn't do well enough on defense this week. And even Dex and said after the game, he said, we didn't make enough plays. We didn't play hard enough, and we ended up losing the game when we probably maybe should have won this game. And across the 2 games against the Commanders, we didn't force a single turnover. And if you can't force a turnover against a team with a rookie quarterback, who, granted, yes, he's played well so far this year, but when he's made mistakes, he's created turnovers, and we just didn't force him to do that. And overall, across the 2 games, it's just not good enough. But across those 2 games against Washington this season, we gave up 783 yards of total offense, at an average of 6.1 yards per play. Whichever way you look at it, it's not going to cut it. And I know I've mentioned it earlier in the year, but do you think we need to see more of an aggressive scheme, especially in coverage and especially against a divisional rival, Kev?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've been playing a lot of bend, don't break, and I know Shane Bowen likes to try and get pressure with 4, but we just don't have the DBs to be getting pressure with 4 at the moment. Do you know what I mean? We haven't got. We've got a good, half decent number 2 cornerback and a couple other guys. Really good nickelback who's young and inexperienced. He's a rookie. We've got a long way to go, to be able to play the defense he wants to play. So I think he's going to have to mix up. He's going to have to get a bit more exotic with the blitzes. Now, don't be going Wake Martindale crazy with them, but definitely to draw up some more exotic stuff to try and help sort of the guys at the back end, because we've actually, we've lost McLeod today as well. We've cut McLeod, who is a solid player, a spot starter, good special team player. So we're getting really thin in the secondary. So I do think we need to mix things up a bit and be a little bit more aggressive, but don't be going too gung-ho.
And I mean, we laud the offense when they don't mix it up, and if the passing game's not working and they carry on trying to pass the ball, we get on the back because they're not changing how they're playing. You're not run the ball, and look what happened on Sunday. We started running the ball against Washington, and it was working. So why is it not the same for the defense? Why are we playing the same way week in, week out? Why not going, what? Throughout the game plan, it's clearly not working. Let's do something a bit different. Why is that not happening? Craig, you got a point to make?
Yeah, it's just part of it where we're talking about, do we need to see a more aggressive scheme against a divisional rival? You have a look at what happened game 1. We played aggressively against them and they torched us. So game 2, we've gone for the opposite and they've torched us. So I think the overall arching thing behind the Commanders is the fact that they are a better team than us now. That's just the way to put it. Like, we can say, oh, they should have been more aggressive, but we tried that the first time and it just didn't work.
You're not wrong. I agree. I think they are a better team than us now. And as sad as it is to say, I think we probably are at the foot of the division at the moment. And I mean, that's not just what our record says. We are, in terms of where we are as a team, we are last in the division at the moment. I mean, the Cowboys aren't much better, but you know. But yeah, so frustrating all round. And I think Dex said after the game, like I said, the defense got beat up. They just didn't make the plays. And him and Brian Burns are having a private conversation between themselves in the locker room. You know, the leaders on this unit with Bobby Okereke, do you expect them to see him come out against the Panthers and Munich next week with a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, especially Burns, obviously, against his old team, Craig?
I think that's a no-brainer. That Burns will want to have a good game against his old team. I imagine that most players probably do, unless you've been there for years and years. But then again, there's a reason they let you go, so I'm sure you want to play better. I don't know if they'd come out with a chip on their shoulder, perhaps, in the terms of like Bobby and Dex, because I feel like as veterans, that's just the way they'll play. I think the whole chip on the shoulder thing is more something that you would get from rookies, where rookies will want to impress and want to push themselves, whereas veterans, they're entitled to an off day every so often. Nobody's going to be perfect every time, but I don't think Dex is going to look at this Panthers game and go, "Oh, I'm pissed off. I need to do this. I need to get 4 sacks or something." I think Dex is just going to come into that Panthers game like, I know what my job is. I'm just going to do my job and try and elevate the people around me. So I think there's frustrations from the veterans, and I kind of agree with what Dex was saying. Like, this is between me and the team, mate. Like, don't make this more than it is, because there are certain people in that media sort of area that will take a story and run with it. But
they read between the lines when the lines aren't there.
Yeah, I think they're well entitled. The defense did get beat up, but they're allowed private conversations between them.
Yeah, man, agreed. And obviously Burns as well. Like he's sort of become a leader himself in that defensive unit as well. And it's nice to have Dex, Burns, and Okereke now sort of as a bit of a threesome there on that defense. Right through the spine of the defense as well. So to have someone who's not a captain sort of step into a leadership role is definitely good to see. And I'm glad that he's stepped into that role. But Shane, what stood out for you this week?
Other than my computer not wanting to come off mute for a moment, nothing. Unlike Kev's section where Kev had a couple of players that were standing out and mentioning, let's be perfectly honest, no one stood out on the defense this past weekend. You got Brian Robertson was on the inactive list before kickoff, which was a big boost for us. We thought, okay, you got Austin Eckler to contend with, and then you've kind of got Jerry McNichols and Chris Rodriguez. You have always got Daniels to account for as well. It meant the Commanders could run the ball 38 times at just under 4 yards per carry, and the defense couldn't do a thing about it. It was like they were watching with popcorn going, "Oh, do you want a few more yards? Carry on. Like, knock yourselves out. We don't really care." One of the big killers was a 3rd and 18 conversion that we allowed to Deami Brown with 20 seconds to go in the first half. And then one play later, you had Terry McLaurin's second touchdown grab of the half, gave them a comfortable lead. And they knew they were going to be getting the ball back to start the second half as well. The Ty Banks on that touchdown showed extremely poor coverage and awareness, which he admitted after the game, saying, "I need to do better." So fair play to him for admitting accountability. But I feel like I heard a lot of Giants defenders saying similar words after the game on Sunday. You also had McLaurin referencing some of the tendencies Banks tends to show after the game as well, in particular noting that he watched the Browns game and saw the touchdown Banks gave up to Mari Cooper. It meant he could then apply the same tendencies that got him that touchdown. So, it's something that, teams are starting to pick up on now and watching, and it's going to be something that never it's happened twice. You can be sure that other wide receivers are going to be looking at it as well. Excuse me. And then finally, 2 big penalties cost the defence. DPI by Flott on the first touchdown drive, meaning they were goal to go after the fumble. And then the face mask on DJ Davidson allowed Washington to finish running down the clock inside the 10-yard line to end the game. So no real standout players for right reasons, no really standout moments for the right reasons. But Craig, this week the defence has really struggled. Fair to say, anyone will own up to that. Probably the most since week 1. Is some of the criticism for the defence a little bit harsh, considering they've kept us in games for the last 6 or 7 games when the offence has pretty much been non-existent?
Yeah, I think they can feel aggrieved to maybe have the onus put on them so heavily. What is I'm just kind of rehashing things a little bit here from what we spoke with Schmelk about earlier, but like we all mentioned complementary football, didn't we? All 3 of us mentioned complementary football, with the Giants are incapable of performing on both offense and defense at the same time at the moment. So I think from a defensive point of view, they were just frustrated that they weren't able to do their side of the job when the offense actually started to click. But it must be tough for the defense to do it every single week, especially with what's going on. And Jaden Daniels is just a different animal, I'm afraid. He's really added an extra dimension that we're struggling with. And when you're a team that struggles against the run, and you have running backs who can hurt you, and then a quarterback who is even better, with his legs than probably 90% of the other quarterbacks out there, really does make it difficult for a defense. I just think that, as I mentioned earlier, Bowen tried the aggressive side last time. He went for the more conservative side this time, and the Commanders were able to torch them both times. So I think the Commanders have kind of become that lose-lose situation for us this season.
And for the next section, viewer and listener discretion is advised. It's not going to be a fun question I'm going to fire. Kev, I'm going to change the topic up here, moving away from the defensive talk. So we've had winning decades. That's what I said, decades, over Washington since the 1980s, where they then went 11-10 against us. We always seen this Washington as the easy dub. To quote a former Man U great, I'm sure Dan's going to know where this is going. The Washington game is always the no-brainer. It's the one that can't fail. It's the one that's never failed. It's the get-right game for us, and it's the one guarantee on the season. We last had a winning decade against the NFC East back in the 2000s. Very simply, and I say this with no disrespect to Washington fans, because I like Washington as general. Washington's the one team in the NFC East I actually don't mind and I've got no issues with. But are we now the Washington equivalent for the rest of the NFC East, Kev?
Yes. I mean, it pains me to say it, but at the moment, we just can't win games, and teams look forward to playing us at the moment. We can't get over the hump. I mean, like, you talk about this past week. Yes, the offense played okay. The defense wasn't great. But you know what wins this game? Scoring 30 points. We can't do that. We don't have the quarterback to put the team on his back and go out there and win games for us. You've seen what Daniel said it, and I mentioned it in the preview podcast. Washington went out and got themselves a QB that can make things happen. And that's exactly sort of, how Washington were able to win this game. Yeah, we are that team now until we're not. Dan said it. Your record is what your record. You are what your record says you are. And right now at the moment, Washington has our number, and it hurts.
Big time. For those who don't know, Gary Neville. Gary Neville is a red. He hates Scousers. Anyway, yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, we are where we are, and we are the basement of the NFC East. And as much as it hurts, as much as it's disappointing, we've got nobody to blame but ourselves, unfortunately. And are we a quarterback away? Washington are, or Washington were. So, yeah, that's how much difference having a quarterback can make. All right then, Craig, special teams. A big day for Jude.
You want to know something funny? So the agreement between myself and Kev was that I was going to let Kev talk about Jude McTominay. So I would cover the rest of special teams. But I was so pissed off that I haven't actually written anything for special teams, and I've forgotten to do it because the rest of the writing about the rest of it was just so annoying. I just haven't written anything for the rest of special teams.
Go on.
So I'm going to wing this with no stats, nothing written down, absolutely nothing. The only thing I can remember about special teams is Matt Hawke punted out of bounds and absolutely shanked one. And that's it. That's all I can remember. Smith Marset.
Smith Marset did a couple of good things, Craig.
Your boy Smith Marset.
I was about to say Smith Marset was serviceable. Again, I'm not going to call him good. He was serviceable. Apparently, he's also not in concussion protocol, so he should be okay for my live look at him on Sunday in Newton, which I can't wait for. That's how it's. There we go. A 24-yard punch from Matt Hawke. Apparently, Graham Gano and Jamie Gillan are both close to returning, so we could see the Scottish Hammer back for the trip to Munich. But we don't care about anything else on special teams other than one thing. So, Kev, my friend.
Hey, Jude.
We have to mention Jude. You have to give the kid some props. He made all of his kicks on his NFL debut. Made a 31-yard field goal, all his 3 extra points. Do you know what I mean? And he basically went out there and wasn't awful, and we'll take that. Yes, they were a little bit close to the left, but they still went over, and we will take that. And plus, I sent him the photos from the meetup on Sunday night, and he said thank you for the support, and he said that's class. So fair play to him for answering me back. But there we go. There's your Jude talk.
Just put that comment up from Kieran again, Craig, for me. So, Kieran, evening, mate. Kieran said, Jude got good coverage over here in Ireland. All the locals gathered together in his local bar in... Kev, do you want to do the honours on that one?
Yeah, Swatra.
I don't want to... I didn't want to destroy it. To watch the game with the NFL Ireland guys. Mate, that's fantastic to hear. Glad it got covered as well as it did because he deserves it. And, to be an undrafted rookie and to come through the international player pathway, he obviously made the field goal and made the extra point that he was on the field for. So what more can you ask of him? And I don't think he had any issues on kickoffs either. So, top marks, top man. And hopefully it's not the last we see of him. Alrighty. As we lost yet again, we're not going to be doing any players of the game this week. And we've agreed that we won't be doing players of the game until we actually win. So you never know. We might be doing players of the game next week. We'll see. Or we might
not be doing players of the game for the rest of the season.
Oh, don't say that, Shane.
if we're not doing players of the game next week, I want to do listeners of the weekend or watchers of the podcast. So anyone that meets us and has the crack, you might get mentioned in the pod.
Yes,
get your photo.
We put their stats at the bottom, like 17 pints drunk across 3 days.
Get a graphic up and everything.
Love that.
That's it.
Love that.
Yep. Listener of the trip.
Steve, you're confident.
In the comments.
As we've got no players of the game because we lost the game, but there were some performances that weren't too bad. I think we've already mentioned all of them. But time to answer the viewers' questions. Craig, any questions in?
Yeah, there's I guess there's some of them are statements, so I'll turn them into questions. So Shane, I'm going to go with you, and I'm going to roll back the clock to the O-line guru days.
Ooh.
Is there an apology due to offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, coaches the Commanders' O-line to a day of 0 sacks with a rookie LT versus Burns? Shane?
Way to trigger Shane.
I mean, if I'm right in saying a broken clock's right twice a day.
Facts.
Now, you know,
Facts.
yeah, you get up no sacks. Do I want Bobby Johnson back? Absolutely not. Washington can keep him. I'm happy with what our O-line's doing, even without Andrew Thomas.
Right, so Dan, Jamie's put a long one here. So
Go on.
he's put, again, a lack of movement from this team, maybe just me, but I feel like Joe needs to take accountability for this average at best roster that he's had a hand in making. Would you agree that Joe Shane has created an average at best roster?
Yes, he's had a hand in it, but he didn't solely create the roster. It wasn't just him. You know, there's plenty of Dave Getman players left on this roster. But yeah, I mean, there's only so much you're going to be able to do when you're paying a quarterback $40 million a year. You know, obviously we've let McKinney walk because of the money he wanted. We've let Barkley walk because of the money he wanted. And you know, like we said, you know, it's a young team we have at the moment. It's a very, very young team we have at the moment. And do we need to maybe bring some veterans in? Probably. Are those veterans going to command more money? Yes, they are. So we're going to have to make some moves elsewhere. But yeah, he is partly to blame, but I think it's not just on him.
Oh, and then the last one for Kev.
Just create a talking point. I'm going to disagree with Dan there. This is Joe Shane's roster. Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Darius Slate, and Daniel Jones are the only 4 players that are Graham Gano potentially. But when you look at how many players are Dave Gettleman, this is a 98% roster. And Joe Shane opted to pay that quarterback. So for me, he then takes responsibility for having said quarterback on the roster. Just to look at things from the other side.
Fun fact:
How could you not pay him?
The only player that Joe Shane has not signed to a contract. Do you know who it is? There's one player.
What do you mean not signed to a contract that's on the roster now?
Yeah, there's one player that Joe Shane has not signed to a contract, whether it be drafted or re-signed like Daniel Jones is what I'm getting at. Like, there's one player.
Drafted by Gettleman.
Yeah.
Aziz
Ojulari in the last year of his deal, 4-year deal. Everyone else has either been drafted by Shane or re-signed by Shane or signed as a free agent.
Interesting.
So it is Shane's team. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, but
is he building like? He's saying it's average.
It's projection, isn't it? It's projection. I think that's the problem we've got is because we're so young. It's projection now.
Yeah,
exactly that.
I said
we need more draft classes
like
we've had this year, and some astute, savvy free agent signings, and a quarterback who can play.
Yeah, I mean, look at them. Look at them. We've said for years we need to address the offensive line. Look what he did in the off season. Address the offensive line. Look where it is now. You know, I mean, I know we said he needs to address the secondary. No doubt that's probably top of his list next season, along with quarterback as well. But obviously, if you're going to bring in a rookie quarterback, you're going to have the money to pay for a veteran on the secondary. When you're paying a quarterback $40 million a year, you're not necessarily going to have the money to invest in other positions. And yes, he signed Daniel Jones to that contract. We all know he'd signed Daniel Jones to that contract. But how can you not pay him after the season he had in 2022?
Yeah. And also, don't forget, lads, I was thinking about this last week, and I was going to say it in the podcast last week, but didn't quite fit in. Joe Sheehan and Brian Dable are rookie GM and head coaches. They're going to have to learn on the job the way a rookie takes his licks in the league. So we can either go out and get a head coach and GM that has played and field in the league, or we can say these guys will have to feel on this job as they go towards success. And they have made mistakes, they have failed, but I feel that they've made some really good moves as well. And I believe that the licks they've taken these last 2 years, I think will set them in good stead going forward.
Yeah, and last thing I just want to add as well, see, with the draft classes that Shane's brought in since he's been there, it's been very much a case of drafting positions of need. Look at his first draft, for instance. We needed an edge rusher, so he drafted Thibodeau, and we needed a left tackle, the right tackle, sorry. So we drafted who was projected to be the best one in the draft in Evan Neal. Look how that's turned out. So it swings and roundabouts. It's he's 3 years into his tenure, and I think those that are calling for his head already are just stupid, because how can you build a team in 3 years from where we're no better off now 3 years later than we were this time 3 years ago. In fact, we've got the same record as we did this time 3 years ago. So it's been tough going, but I still give him credit for doing what he's done so far. We had a winning season with him, so.
I agree with what you're saying, but I can also understand fans' frustrations, because we have them frustrations that, one winning season in one winning record, in 7 seasons isn't acceptable. And, I think drafting is where Joe Shane actually goes wrong. I think we should go down the route of draft BPA every single time. Just draft BPA, and then free agency is where you go after your needs. You've got your experienced players there, players who know what it takes, and that's where you do it now. Joe Shane doesn't do it that way for one reason or another. And one of the big concerns I've got is everyone railing about this draft class is a case of, hold on, let's see what we've got in 18 months' time, because I feel like we did exactly the same last year. We were like, oh, yeah, look at Banks. Oh, yeah, look at JMS. Oh, yeah, look at Jalen Hyatt. But 2 of the players have regressed pretty much this year, and I feel like we had the same problem the year before as well. So I credit where it's due in terms of a draft class doing well, but I do think some people need to just take it back a little bit in regards to draft class and just actually wait and see what we have got, because it does feel like we draft players who do great in their first season, and for whatever reason that take a step back. Look at Danny Bellinger. We all raved about him after his rookie season. Now we wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make the roster next season.
It's very true. It is. There's a couple of things. Just first of all, the very first draft class, remember that none of his scouts were there. They were all still Getterman scouts. He still had that. So there are certain caveats you can make to that first draft class, but we had 2 first-round picks, and as good as Thibodeau has been, I don't think you can say that we hit a home run on them just yet. And 2 in the top 10 as well, which is bad. The other point is that, and we've mentioned it a million times, the roster's young, and he has been hamstrung by his own deal for Daniel Jones. That's his that will be his biggest mistake. Now, give him, if we're giving people like Jerry Reese and Dave Gettleman as long as they got, then there's no reason that Joe Shane only gets 3 years. And that's my biggest takeaway from it.
Yeah, I just add one more thing. Sorry, just like, if Daniel Jones is not in the team next year, right? Shane will have his quarterback, because he would have gone and got him in the draft. But he'll also have 65 to 70 million in drafts and cap space next year by releasing Daniel Jones. Now that needs to be used wisely as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have big money.
Free agency is before the draft as well, so it'd be interesting to see if he's still there, which all signs point to him being there with the vote of confidence. I think people keep saying, the dreaded vote of confidence. I think the only person who gets a dreaded vote of confidence there is Dable, because there's plenty he could do before the end of the season that would put him on the chopping block. I don't think Joe Shane is. So let's assume he is still there in the off season. The free agency class could arguably be bigger than the draft class, depending on how that goes.
Yeah, it's a massive off season for the team across both free agency and the draft. I think we really need to sort of hit big with some of the players we bring in. I think it's it's vital that we bring in some quality players for sure. All right then. Thanks for
Quickly
the
before-
questions and comments.
There's one more comment. Shane
Okay.
derailed me with his talking point, and now I'm going to make him. I'm going to make him wait to reveal his new special shiny toy before Kev answers this one. Kev, no trades announced. What does that say?
It says that the only player that had any value on our roster was Zizo Jalari, and I believe that the highest pick that was offered was a 5th or 6th, and they deemed that not good enough. If the highest draft pick was offered was a 6th, you'd get a 4th
That's
or
a
5th
slap
for
on the
him, a
face.
comp pick the year after. So why not keep him in there? Thibodeau still needs to come back and get some time. So we will kind of need him if we want to be competitive. And yes, we talk about choo-choo trains, okay, but we still need to be a competitive football team. We all know that. But we can also be a competitive football team and end up picking high in the draft. So I don't think we were never going to be buyers, I don't think. Although you see some of the moves that were made, and it's like, oh, like Tre'Davious White, going for pick swaps, the 6th and 7th round pick swaps from the Rams to the Ravens. Now that makes the Ravens secondary even better than what it already is. Could that be in a deal that we might have done ourselves? Joe Sheehan was assistant GM when the Bills drafted Tre'Davious White. Seeing some of the pass rushers moving around for very, very cheap who are better players than Azeez Ojulari, so we were never going to get what they went for. I just don't think things aligned right for us to be able to sell off any of our players or bring in anyone that would make this roster better now or going forward.
Right. All right, Shane.
Yeah, I just want to add before Shane goes with his new shiny toy. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN did tweet out a couple of hours ago that in addition to Mike Williams, the Steelers did have a good long hard look at Darius Slayton in their hunt for a wide receiver, but they did decide to go with Mike Williams instead. So Slayton was being looked at. Just the decision was made to go with another receiver. So
that was a 5th round pick.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. All right, come on then, Shane. Looks like we're in for another losing season. So over to you.
Yeah, it took you guys a little bit of persuading compared to me. I mean, I was ready to get this going on week 3, but unfortunately, I've had to wait until week 9. But we are every week going to be doing a tankathon update. So on our game reviews, me and Kev at the end of the show, we'll talk about a couple of players that stood out to us. They're more than likely going to be quarterbacks. Let's not beat around the bush. And then in the preview pods for our upcoming game, at the end of the show, me and Kev will talk about 2 players that people should keep an eye out for in this upcoming college weekend. And we'll try our best to try and do it for a game that's watchable, i.e. one that's going to be on Sky Sports. Promise, I know Notre Dame have every game on Sky Sports at home. It won't constantly be Notre Dame players, Kev, will it? So that brings in our
Any good ones?
Oh!
Boom, boom. Boom, boom.
I mean, surely that should be on a t-shirt, no? It's a great graphic.
Boom, boom.
So yeah, we're going to bring in
every week as well.
So the first part we're going to do is we're just going to look at the tankathon results, as we'll call them, and what the current draft standings are as it stands. So at the minute, yes, there is 170 days to go till April 24th. We're not counting. Yes, we are really. And this is the current order of the draft. So number 1 overall pick is New England Patriots. They're currently on a losing streak of 1 game. Just behind them is number 2, Jacksonville Jaguars, who've lost 2 in a row. That's quite interesting. So obviously, Patriots and Jags both have their quarterbacks of the future, you'd believe. So there is possibly a trade-up scenario that we could have there, depending on how the rest of the season pans out. Then a bit of a surprising one, New Orleans Saints at number 3, who have lost 7 games in a row and have recently sacked their head coach. Craig, I know your missus is a Saints fan. Is she hoping for a high draft pick, or results going to be turning around soon?
I mean, I don't want to turn this into the New Orleans Saints podcast, but we had an in-depth conversation earlier after Marshawn Lattimore was traded, and I think she is committed to the fact that they are looking at a 3-year rebuild now.
And then obviously at number 4 is Carolina Panthers, our next opponent, who have won one game. They won at the weekend. 5 is Browns, 6 is Las Vegas Raiders, and 7 is your New York Football Giants, who are currently on a 4-game losing streak. 8 is Miami Dolphins, 9 is Tennessee, and 10 is the Jets. Both of those teams have won one game each. Now, what's interesting is the teams that are picking 1 to 9, for people that are listening to the audio version of this, are all on 2 and 7. So that's a hell of a lot of teams to be on only 2 wins. Some teams are on 6 losses, some teams are on 7, depending on if they've had their bye yet. So that is the current state of the draft if it were to happen today. Now, what me and Kev are going to do is talk about 2 players very briefly. We've kind of both picked 1 player each to talk about. Kev, I'll hand it over to you for your player.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start with quarterbacks, and where else can you start than Shadur Sanders of Colorado? Do you know what I mean? He's 6'2", 215 pounds. Sanders and Colorado had a bye week in this past week in week 10, but against Cincinnati in week 9, he completed 25 of his 30 passes for 323 yards, scored 2 touchdowns through the air, and added another one on the ground. That performance kind of reflects his entire body of work that he's put together this season. He's one of the most accurate passers in the country. He's completed 73.3% at 220 passes of 300 attempts for this season, and a total yards of 2,591 at 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He added 3 additional scores on the ground as well. His arm is good enough. It's not elite, but it's good enough for the NFL. Is very, very accurate on especially short and intermediate passes. But mentally, I think, is where he can really excel. He can diagnose very, very quickly with incredible speed, and he probably would be the most ready NFL ready player with his football IQ. I just think he's got it between the ears, and he can, like I said, he processes so quickly, and we haven't got that. Whereas Daniel Jones needs to be 100% sure something's open. Sanders can diagnose it and get the ball out of his hands quickly and get the ball moving. And with him being, Mayos makes a great point there. He's Deion Sanders' son. So somewhere like the Big Apple, the New York market, will not be too big for this guy. He was big in high school. He's been big at Jacksonville State. He's been big at Colorado. He will have the mentality to be able to come in and not be sort of like not be scared by this football league or by the market of New York. So I think he's top 5 pick. I think we might need to go up and get him, but I definitely think he's a player that we all should be looking to sort of take this franchise forward.
Yeah, and then just before I move on to the player I'm going to be talking about, we've not spoken about full detail, but the aim is going to be me and Kev are going to kind of talk about different players. Sanders might crop up again in 2 or 3 weeks' time. We're not going to make this the Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders show, so we will try and mix it up. And, we might talk about players who maybe have had a bad performance past weekend and a reason as to why maybe we want to avoid that player. But, I'm going to go to a player that I believe a lot of the listeners know about. He's been mentioned to us on Sunday by a couple of listeners. He's been mentioned in the comments, and that's Cam Ward. He once again showed this weekend why he's going to be under serious consideration for not just QB1 in the 2025 NFL draft, but why he could also be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, along with being a serious contender for the Heisman Trophy this season. Now, Miami, who were ranked number 5 going into this weekend, but are now number 4 in the AP rankings, beat Duke. We all know Duke have shit quarterbacks. That's enough of that one. 53-31. It was a game in which he threw for 400 yards, completing 25 of 41 pass attempts for 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. And the 3 of those touchdowns came in the second half when Miami were 28-17 behind. So a couple of fun facts for you now in regards to this. So this is the 3rd time this season. Bear in mind, this is the 8th game for them. So this is the 3rd time this season Miami has trailed by multiple scores at the half, in which Cam Ward has led a comeback with 3 second half touchdowns. Now, I know it's college football, but I can never see our quarterback doing that. And then finally, Miami haven't won 8 games in a season since 2020. Ward, who made his way to Miami via the transfer portal, now has the U at 8-0 on the season. So, he's going to be in serious consideration, as I say, not just for QB1, but number 1 overall draft pick. I think he's going to be kind of, shots fired. Just read this comment out by Mayonnaise. Sorry. I thought Duke were really good at football. Didn't they beat FSU? Craig, could you please confirm or deny said comment?
Can I do it? I prefer not to speak.
But yeah, like I was saying, Cam Ward, he's going to be a player that a lot of people have already heard of. I know this for a fact from group chats I've seen, Twitter comments, and the comments we've had in our Twitter. I know Holty is a massive Cam Ward fan. I believe on Sunday he was saying it's Cam Ward or nothing, and paying homage to the Kevin Costner Draft Day film from a few years ago. But yeah, this is, like I say, this is one we'll be bringing on a regular basis, and it'll be mentioned again on our preview pod this coming week, where we'll just look at the teams in and around us who they've got this upcoming weekend, and then players to potentially for you guys to watch out for. So hopefully it'll keep the episode a little bit fresh for you and slowly build people's college knowledge if they don't have much.
Just a quick one, Shane. How much of a gap do you have between Ward and Sanders?
Do you mean footballing wise? Because I'm not drafting Shador Sanders for shit.
Well, you think a personality is a red flag?
I have absolutely no interest. Talent wise, it's very close. It could even be a 1A, 1B.
Yeah.
In regards to, I'm trying to think of the right word.
Well, they've already threatened, haven't they? There's rumors that they will, if they don't feel that they'll get picked by a team that they want, Sejour and Dion, that he'll go back to college and pull like an Eli Manning type thing. Although Eli didn't go back to college, but stuff like that worries me a little bit.
I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in drafting Shador Sanders. Unless you could guarantee me 4 Super Bowls in the next 6 years, I'm not drafting Shador Sanders. Maturity was the word I was looking for.
Maturity, okay. I think maybe he's got a bit of confidence about him because of who his dad is, right? There you go.
Oh well, yeah.
But also, his dad knows the league inside out. So
it's not just that. But I mean, there was a few weeks ago when I think Buffalo might have been losing. I can't remember, but basically there was 2 minutes of the game left, and Sedan Sanders shot Oscar down the tunnel. Like, you're not going to watch the rest of your team perform. Like, no, thank you. Stay away.
The interview's going to be massive.
Have you not seen what happened this week? The past week? So there was a huddle during one of the practices, and the coach or one of the coaches turned around to the players and was like, don't forget to sort out your classes, etc. Like hinting at next season that they need to sort their classes and stuff. And Sanders just went, that won't be me. I'll be in the big time then.
Yeah, you won't be in the big time with the New York Football Giants. I can absolutely guarantee you that.
It's very cocksure of himself there.
Do you want to know what his bad it is? I would rather have Daniel Jones.
No, give over.
Yeah, I would, because then we get another shit season and a higher draft pick.
To manage 2026, you heard it here first from Shane's side.
Oh, tank for Archie. You never know.
Arch
just before we sort of round out, I mean, I know you said about you said about trying to avoid Notre Dame players because obviously they're on Sky Sports, blah blah blah. Craig, do you want to drop that comment that you made again? I don't know if the guys quite heard it.
I said, do they have good players? Oh yeah. Blazing today after the abuse I've had for weeks of that FSU.
Constant shots firing this evening.
That's a 10-yard penalty, my friend, for doing gun symbols.
Tell you what, Craig get it all in this week because I think after the weekend,
Oh, not
Mate,
so-
I'm going to do a Kevin Keegan here. I would love it if they beat them. Love it.
Yes,
Shane,
yeah.
Shane, you also have a pick of 2 new nicknames.
I have what? Sorry.
Do you want to be known as the Tank Commander Shane
Yeah.
or the Shane Controller?
Ooh. Can I have one on the front and one on the back of my t-shirt?
Yeah.
I think
Prince and then the artist formerly known as.
yeah. I think as we're going along the Thomas theme, don't want to offend any copyrights here. The Shane controller, maybe. Quite good. Question for you though before we round out. I know Shane, you already are, so you might as well say yes. But are you all aboard?
Absolutely. I'm checking tickets.
Not just in your day job, Shane. No.
No, exactly.
It's
Kev.
tricky. It's tricky. I'm not aboard it as
Kev,
such.
you're aboard it. Kev, you're aboard it.
But I want the high draft pick now because I've come
Oh,
to
but it's-
the realization. I've come to the realization that when our season is over, which is after game 17 usually, that until we play again, we're all about draft season and free agency and roster building. So to have a decent pick in this draft would make that make that off season more enjoyable for us. I'll just leave it like that.
Kev, stop sitting on the fence. Are you coming aboard? We're going to be departing shortly. Next stop, Green Bay. Are you getting on board? Kev, just it's okay, mate. We've all been there. Just
Chew fucking chew!
Yes.
That's one aboard. Craig, are you all aboard yet?
I'm aboard for 6 days a week.
Yeah.
6 days a week and
my man.
21 hours.
For those 3 hours that the Giants play, I'm standing on the platform,
Patiently waiting.
patiently waiting to see the train gets more carriages.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think I would never want this team to lose. I always want this team to be competitive in a game. And I mean, I still am in a way anti-tank because, like I said, I never want this team to lose. But at the same time, we need a quarterback, and the only way we get a top tier quarterback that can elevate this team is by either having a high draft pick or moving the earth and moving up to get one. So, I'm not all aboard, but I'm waiting at the station.
You purchased this ticket.
And believe me, that train's going to be arriving a lot sooner than you'd want it to.
Once the season is like mathematically over and done with, then we can only look forward to next year. But
For those
until
that
that
are
point,
just to confirm for those that are like waiting for the train, we are going to be destination Green Bay, stopping off at Alabama and Indianapolis en route.
nice.
No love for the Shrine Bowl.
It needs the more to justify a stop. It's a request. It's a request stop, is what it is.
Stop on request.
Yeah.
Stop on request like that. Alrighty. I think that's enough talk about trains for this week, or for tonight anyway. No doubt with the talk will carry on Thursday. That is all we do have time for this evening. We'll be back on Thursday at 8:30 to preview Week 10 as we head off to Munich for the last International Series game of the year as we take on the just as bad Carolina Panthers next Sunday. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
Kind of touching on what we did at the start of the show, it was great meeting everyone on Sunday. The Giants defeat suck at the best of times, but I find that suck just a little bit less when you've got fellow fans to kind of chat with and enjoy in a weird way. Those games, and hopefully the introduction of the tankathon will help keep things a little bit more interesting as well, and also raise the knowledge for listeners and viewers as we get closer to the draft eventually.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, like, it was really good seeing everyone Sunday, although I was absolutely wrecked and knackered. I wasn't the most sociable. But this weekend is going to be fantastic. Like, if you see us at the Hofbräu House or you see us at the Giants house or at the game, at any of the bars, stuff like that, like, just pop over, say hello, have the crack with us. Like, I'm so looking forward to being away for the weekend with all the boys, football weekend. And let's try and get a win in Munich. Let's cheer it on. Come on. How good would that Sunday night be with a win against the Panthers?
Yeah, obviously we will get into that on Thursday's pod, and just to kind of preview Thursday's pod, we'll go through sort of day by day what the loose kind of plans are for us as well, so you guys can figure out where we are and come and find us. We have a stack of stickers to give away to people as well, special boarding passes for anybody who wants one while you're in Munich. So please let us know.
It's not a boarding pass for a train. That's a boarding pass for a plane. Just saying. Or is it for a train?
But you've given me an idea.
How about now?
But yeah, roll on Thursday and then roll on Friday.
Yeah, man. Obviously, myself and Craig fly out Friday. Kev, you fly out Saturday morning. So yeah, we will be there sort of late Friday evening and through Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, it'd be great to see as many of you there as possible. If you see us, come and chat to us. And let's just have a good weekend. Obviously, I won't be on Thursday to preview the game because I'm unfortunately working, but no doubt you guys will do a great job anyway. And I just can't wait for this week. Obviously, last weekend was great to be with you guys, and this weekend's going to be just the same. But to see the Giants play in person as well is always a joy. And let's hope we get a win. Let's hope we go 4-0 in international series games. And I've still yet to see the Giants lose, and hopefully that that record continues on Sunday as well. So massively looking forward to it.
Yeah, just a quick one from me. I'm not on the show Thursday either due to work commitments. I also am not going to be in Germany due to work commitments and a lack of annual leave due to a certain football team deciding to get to a certain final and then losing it. Thank you. But I just want to say to you three, I hope you have a fantastic time. I hope you come back from Germany with that dub for the Giants, and never want to see any, when people pay good money to go and watch the Giants, you always want them to win. So, I hope all three of you guys have a fantastic time, and also everyone who's listening and watching, have an amazing time. It's going to be epic no matter what. And just remember, you're there to watch the Giants and watch it with fellow Giants fans. So I hope everyone has an absolutely amazing time.
Amen to that, brother. We are there to watch the Giants and hopefully watch the Giants win. So let's look forward to the weekend. As usual, those that are commenting and been watching along this evening, thank you very much for getting involved. We appreciate all the love. I mean, there's been plenty of you getting involved this evening, so really, really appreciate it. And don't forget as well to check out all of our socials for the latest news. Follow the links in the description. Give the episode a big thumbs up. And like I said, we will post our sort of schedule out on our socials. Our schedule for the weekend, shall I say, out on the socials, so you're sort of going to know where we are if you don't manage to catch Thursday's show. And my thanks, as ever, do go to Shane, to Kev, and to Craig for joining me. We are signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.